Morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion. And wow, what an interesting day last week when we look at Friday and a huge earnings week. We knew about that. We knew that going into it, and obviously the testimony followed by the earnings, followed by at least a big day of trade. And that's exactly what we had. So we were pressured on the Dow, last week, certainly on Friday. We were actually down a couple of hundred points. We were right around that 26,000 level for the Dow. And holy smokes, did you see the final 2 hours? The final 2 hours, we just ripped to the upside, actually finished up about 110, 115 points, and actually reversed that whole thing, finishing up closer to 26,500, actually 26,440. So a really nice recovery, and that didn't just occur in the Dow. We actually watched the Nasdaq as well in a final 2 hour sprint, actually turn and burn to the upside, up finishing up 1.5%, up 157 points. So the combination of so many things at work here. And then you look over, and we've been talking about the commodities for a long time now. Gold, right around that 2000, it was 1994. Silver, 24 and a half, call it. Crude, right around 40 and a half. Volatility index continues, as I've talked about, this contraction in the movement and contraction in the size of the movement in terms of the VIX itself, 24 and a half. That's about where we were, it seemed like, for the entire day. Now, I'll hit volumes in just a second, but the interesting thing was, as you break down what sectors were actually providing the ups and downs and the movement of the marketplace, XLF almost got into the green. It actually was right around that flat area. We'll say getting very, very close to the green, but the star performer, no doubt about it, was technology, and a huge move to the upside. You look over at the XLK up 2.5%. That says it all. So you had Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft. Surprise. Cisco, Take-Two. You had JD. You had Skyworks. We had PayPal. Absolutely has been on fire. So that's another one of those names. And it's been running, and then ran even a little bit further. So massive turn there. And how about the SMH? Now, the SMH, we've seen a little bit of movement there and actually finished down a little bit on the day. But that's not, when you look at where some of the movements have been, it's been far more moves to the upside with gradual moves to the downside. A gradual move this past week down about 0.5%, something like that. But the massive turns late in the day, these themes are continuing to play out. And I think that's the important part about always being aware of how things have been trading and what some of the rhythms have been. That certainly has been something that we've talked about for a very long period of time. You've heard me talk about it almost all throughout this pandemic, about that last 45 minutes to 2 hours, even 3 hours sometimes, where we have those huge moves, mostly to the upside. We've seen some downside days there as well. Now, focus on a couple of the stocks that really were important, I think. KSU, so Kansas City Southern, that really stood out. This stock was up 10%. Now, that's 50, it hit a 52-week high, actually pulled off of those highs, skyrocketed to the upside. Then it eased back late. There was some buyout chatter. That's always going to get stocks moving to the upside, something like that. So you look at KSU, definitely a big push. I talked about gold. Now, gold didn't make any kind of a massive move necessarily, but take a look over at Newmont. So now we're starting to see the miners as they actually start to participate even more so. We've talked about Yamana. We've talked about some of the other names, Barrick, but Newmont we haven't highlighted in a while, but that was a little over a 5% move on Friday. That's a big move to the upside. Now, recovering somewhat, but still struggling. You look over at some of those industrials with Boeing and Raytheon and Dow and some of those various names that we looked for in the Dow industrials, and you really didn't see kind of the movement that you'd want to see. We're not really seeing that movement out of those today either. But we had a strong lead into today. Actually, as you come off the weekend, one of the things definitely powering things, Microsoft, because a lot of people focusing on what's going on with Microsoft and is there going to be any kind of a deal with TikTok? Because that was the storyline that was getting pushed out, and we started talking about it and hearing about it. And then will the president deal with this? In what way will they deal with this? What's the administration's stance? Also, huge deal coming in today, Marathon. Now, the Marathon deal is really interesting because this is a massive deal. So they're selling their Speedway chain to 7-Eleven for $21 billion. And oh, by the way, I mentioned KSU a second ago. KSU, once again, Kansas City Southern, it's up again, trading close to that 180 area once again. So that chatter and some of that conversation certainly still in place. So early on, we're up about 135 points on the Dow. The Nasdaq was up about 90 points. You had gold holding just below 2,000, call it 1980. You had silver 24 and a half. Crude barely holding on to 40. I'm looking at the volatility index right now in front of me. It's trading just below 25. But starting to see, and we're only 30 minutes into the day. I wanted to get this out early because huge day, very packed day going. So I wanted to get it out in the first 30 minutes or so. So that's where we are right now. Now we're up about 220 points on the Dow. NASDAQ, 137 points. So the NASDAQ's up already a 1.25%. Really big move. And as I say, really being powered by Microsoft. A huge move to the upside. Started off up about 3%. That's been exploding ever since. Apple as well was up about 1%. Now closer and closer to 3%. Microsoft up over 4%. Moving to the upside. A lot of this chatter about Microsoft and what will happen. Is there going to be a bid? They've set a date of September 15th. There's a 45-day working deal in front of us right now. So we'll see how this all plays out. That's all stuff that's speculation right now. And the approval process, all of those things, the security of TikTok. There's a lot of different things going on here. XLK up over 2% early, a nice big move to the upside. And talked about that pullback we saw in SMH just a little bit last week on Friday. Nice move today so far. We're up about 1%. NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Lam Research, those are some of the names that are definitely leading to the upside right now. Also, take a look at Merck. This is a name we've talked about for a while now, just steadily moving to the upside today, up and over that 82 level. Got an upgrade today. We talk about Ken Frazier and what a great job he's done as the CEO. They've got an unbelievable pipeline. A lot of good things going on, I think, across many of the pharmaceutical names. And the cash that these pharmaceutical names can generate is absolutely extraordinary, and that can't be looked past either. So trading around just under 25, tight range for the volatility index. Oh, I mentioned volume. Friday finally got back to the volumes that we've been talking about. Now we're into August, but we finished up July 31st, 33.2 million contracts. So we back up above that 30 million range. Really, really huge volumes for a Friday, especially summer Friday. Really, really shocking to see those volumes be that strong, but they really were. We talked about for a couple of days last week, 25, even less than 25 million. Here, actually finished up the week with 33 million. So a very nice, strong close this past Friday, and that big reversal we talked about as well. So Microsoft today, 4.5% to the upside. We talk about TikTok, all of the different things going on. This is for the U.S. entity, the Canadian, what else? New Zealand, Australia. Those are the entities that they're looking for as far as the TikTok in terms of what Microsoft would be looking at if they're actually going to be, and they have been talking about this already, so that's already been released out there as well. Now, little unusual option activity as the market continues to move to the upside, up 2.25 right now. Slack. It's not a name that I love, but you know what? Your bias can't always come into it. So I go into this by telling you this. Who's beating Slack? Microsoft's beating Slack. Slack was a possible acquisition candidate for Microsoft. They didn't do it. Microsoft went right after them. Very much like Facebook has done time and time again as they've moved their way through, looking for ways of different growth. If they can't buy it, they build it. And that's exactly what Work has got, this built product right now. It's doing well, but not nearly as well. Microsoft definitely in charge and took them to the woodshed in terms of competition. There's no doubt about it. But that being said, stock trading right around $30 a share. We had a buyer of 6,000 of the August 14th. Gives you 2 weeks. August 14th, the 30 strike call. So it's right there. Cost about $1.35 for these options. Risk reward, it seems like it adds up to be something pretty reasonable right now. Doesn't mean it's going to work. Doesn't mean the stock's not going to fall to the downside. But when I see a big buyer like this, 6,000 of these, they got earnings not until September. So that's something to keep an eye on as well, September 2nd. So this is not an earnings play. This is just the next couple of weeks and how will Slack, symbol for that, by the way, is work, W-O-R-K. So keep an eye on that one. I did put out a bid. I think that I'm getting filled with that one. I was being very generous, but just so you know ahead of time, they were trading around that $1.35 range. So I always like to point out where stocks were, where the options were, so people have a full understanding. They don't want to feel like they're chasing and all that kind of thing. Folks, knowledge is king. We talk about it all the time. This is the best place to get your knowledge. Market Rebellion, some of the best educators, the best educators, I think, in the business. Great people. Join us for the round table today. We got Bill Fleckenstein's going to join us today. That should be really a lot of fun. We got a lot of different conversations. We got Cash Flow Portfolio. We do those videos every Monday. And Mike Yamamoto and myself, along with Chris as well. We love just talking about all the various things going in the marketplace, some of those implied volatilities, what really makes sense. Then we have a little bit of a fun conversation. I think we're going to be talking about some of the NFL, those that are opting out, why, some of the costs, all that kind of thing. All of that's just a part of some of the fun that we like to have as well. But Bill Fleckenstein today on Market Rebellion. Should be a really great round table. Definitely tune in for that one as well. Folks, have a great day of trading.